Good day, my name is Sky, and I appreciate you spending some study time with me. I'm here to help you make money in online poker by teaching you key strategies and getting you to take action. I'm going to help you go from losing poker to winning poker in 2025 with some killer, easy-to-implement tips. Whip out your poker journal, take some notes, and ganbatte.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Now, to help you take notes with this episode, go to the show notes page, smartpokerstudy.com/pod528. So tip number 1 is to take accountability for your losing ways. If you're currently blaming others, blaming the dealer, blaming the poker site, blaming the poker gods for your losses, stop. Your losses are your own fault. Take accountability for the things that you're doing that are leading to losses. Alex Hormozi says, when you blame others, you help yourself feel better, but when you blame yourself, you help yourself do better. If you take accountability, blame yourself for your losses, you're going to start to figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong that's leading to these losses? Am I playing when I'm tired too late at night? Speaking of late at night, do I play after I've had a few beers after work? Am I playing distracted? Am I just pushing every single hand, not thinking about my opponents and what they hold, but I'm just thinking about my pocket aces, my kings, my top pair, top kicker? Figure out what you're doing wrong so you can improve it, and the rest of these tips in this list will definitely help you out there. Tip number 2 is to play to learn, then play to earn. So right now, I'm kind of assuming that you're watching this because you're a losing, maybe a break-even player. If you keep playing with the idea that I'm going to put in 10, 15 hours a week, I'm going to play, and make money, you need to build your skills first. So I highly recommend when it comes to your poker time, devote at least 1/3 of your poker time to study. That means if you have an hour today to do poker, 20 minutes to study, 40 minutes of play. The thing is, do your study before you play so you can purposefully practice whatever you learn during that study time. Now, speaking of study, of course, right? The idea is that you're going to follow a simple pattern, 1, 2, 3. Study, learn, practice over and over again. Find a piece of training material, this video, for example, some book, a podcast, study that item, take notes, and then practice one thing that you learned. Let's imagine you're pulling up a video. It's a 30-minute long video, or even a chapter, which is like 20 pages long. That coach doing the video, the coach writing that chapter, they're probably going to put so much important information into that chapter. I highly recommend 30-minute video. You might get 3 minutes in, and then the coach tells you something. Oh my gosh, I can practice that right now. Take your notes on it, put the book down, or close the video, actually. Save a timestamp so you can come back to that minute right after you learn something, and then open up a couple tables and then start playing poker with the idea that you're going to practice that thing that you just learned. Also, ditch distractions. This is a big thing for me. Poker time is poker time. One of my goals for the year is to play on average 1 hour per day. Well, sometimes I didn't fit an hour of play earlier into the day. So later in the day, when I'm doing other tasks on the computer, like answering emails and stuff, I open a table and I start playing. Well, I am not devoting my full attention to that table, and my poker play suffers when that happens, when I allow distractions in. So ditch the distractions. 3 things that I'm doing currently. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. The second thing is on my desktop, I'll right-click anywhere within my desktop, hit View, and then turn off Show Desktop Items. So all I'm looking at is my screen with my 2 tables on it, and then the other screen is blank. There's no icons to potentially disrupt me. And then thing 3 is I close Google Chrome. No web pages open whatsoever. Tip number 5 here is to play only 1 or 2 tables. Now, this goes along with the idea that you are playing to learn and then you're playing to earn. What you need to do with only 1 or 2 tables, right? You're trying to work on your skills. You're learning new strategies. You need to implement those strategies. 1 or 2 tables gives your brain space to make reads and to make plays. You get to think about what your opponents are doing. Think about their position, the bet sizes, the stack size, the pot size as it grows, how their range interacts with the flop, the turn, the river, what your hand kind of wants in this hand. Do you want them to fold? Are they capable of folding? Do you want value? Do they have hands that can give you value? You want that brain space to noodle on those things to make the best reads and the best decisions. Another thing too, I'm sure you know it, if you play 4, 6, or 8 tables at a time, When you play multiple tables, you can tend to autopilot and you just kind of play by rote without thinking about situations at all. But when you have only 1 or 2 tables, you're able to spot, this is a perfect time to 3-bet bluff this player with ace-9 offsuit. I normally wouldn't do it, but it's obvious that he is open raising weak. I'm going to take advantage of it. You can do that when you only have one or 2 tables open. Tip number 6, do not play Zoom or fast fold poker with whatever site that you play on. Here's the thing. If you're currently a losing player, losing players playing more hands leads to more losses. What you need to do first is go to regular speed, 1 or 2 tables at a time. That way your opponents aren't constantly rotating. It gives your brain less to think about because Bob is always on your left. Susan is always right here on your right. Super easy. When it's Bob and then Frank and then Jill and then John over and over again, hand after hand, a new player, you just need to devote extra brain space to that. And obviously, that's kind of a distraction, all those tables and all those hands coming at you hand after hand. And also, you're not really playing to learn when you play on Zoom. You're playing to earn. You want to fit in more hands because you're already a winning player. Let's get you to a winning player, reg speed, 1 or 2 tables before you get to Zoom. Tip number 7, play tight with the KISS cash game ranges. Now, I have these bad boys in my hand right here. I laminate them so they're quick reference at any time for you. But you can go to the show notes page for today, smartpokerstudy.com/pod528 to download these absolutely for free right there. What these do is they're going to have you playing a tight, aggressive game. And that gives you a mathematical advantage. On average, across all the positions, you'll be V-pipping if you follow the ranges somewhere around 15 to 18% or so. Now you might think, oh my gosh, that's way too tight. That's boring poker. It isn't boring because you're paying attention. You're trying to play the player. You're making reads like your mind is occupied with what's going on at the table, watching the action when you're not involved, devising exploits to use against your opponents. So it's not boring as long as you're using your brain actively when you're not involved in a hand. But when you're only playing 15 to 18% of hands and your opponents are playing 30, 40, 55% of hands when you're targeting those fish, right? You have that mathematical advantage, and it's really hard for them to overcome your math advantage. And of course, with that mathematical advantage leads to just easier winning in general. Tip 8 is to call in the blinds less often. At the bottom of the KISS cash game ranges, you're going to see that it says, don't follow ranges blindly. Choose your hands dependent upon your opponents and the situation. Strive for positive EV hand choices. So if you get to a spot, you could defend the big blind after somebody limps and somebody else raised to 5 big blinds. The calling ranges might tell you to call with 10-8 suited, for example. But you look at that situation, oh, that limper is still in. There was an open raiser and 3 other callers. This is an ugly spot. If I call with 10-8 suited, I'm just going to be out of position versus 4 other players. I kind of want to avoid that. Just click the fold button. You do not have to defend just because you're in the blind with a decent hand. And one of the big reasons is because out of position play is way more difficult. Plus, calling pre-flop, if you've never thought about this, calling pre-flop just generally leads to more calling post-flop because the pre-flop raiser is more likely to make a C-bet into you. And the most likely way that people continue in the hand, they don't raise versus C-bets. Most of the time, they're calling. So a call pre begets calls on the flop, more calls on the turn, and more calls potentially on the river. Tip number 9, always have a steal plan before calling either pre or post flop. Now, I don't care if you have a gut shot plus a flush draw and 2 overcards. You might not hit your draw, your flopped draw right there. When you check, they bet, and you call. Have a plan. What street is your opponent honest on? What's he likely to do on the turn? What cards are good for you on the turn versus what cards are good for him? If he double barrels on the turn and maybe goes small, can you check raise him if you didn't hit your straight, your overpair, or your flush? Think about stealing before you even click that call. It doesn't matter the hand. It doesn't matter how good it is. Think about it first. Try to plan a steal. Because here's the thing. You're always going to miss the flop. Even if a hand seems like a slam dunk call pre-flop, 10-jack suited out of the big blind, sure, I'm going to defend against a button open raiser right there. But I don't want to just plan on hitting a flush, hitting a straight, hitting 2-pair, hitting a top pair. Most likely, the jack 10 suited, the flop's going to come ace high, it's going to come 8 high, and I'm going to absolutely whiff no flush draw either. How can I steal it from this player? Forces you to play the player and think about them specifically too. Because you're going to miss, plan for how you can steal from the villain. That is a key idea. You're not just stealing from Johnny Nobody. Like, you know the open raiser in the cutoff. You're playing at a reg speed table. You've seen 30 hands against him. What are his post-flop tendencies when he's in position as the C-better? It's going to help you plan your steals. Tip number 10, play more hands aggressively in position. Earlier, when I said whip out the KISS cash game ranges and use them, I said you're probably going to be playing 15 to 18%. Well, if that's boring to you and you do want to play more, that's fine. At the bottom of it, it says play your hands. Choose your hands dependent upon your opponents and the situation. If you want to play more hands, all right, do it aggressively in position. Instead of limping in the MP, go ahead and open raise. Instead of over limping, ISO raise that player. Be aggressive with your hand. Instead of making a call, the MP opens, you're in the cutoff. Instead of calling, 3-bet instead. Get aggressive with the hand outside of the ranges. As long as you're doing it aggressively, it's okay. And you have good reason for it. I don't want you to 3-bet willy-nilly just in the cutoff. I have queen 9 suited, I'm going to 3-bet. No. You want to see that your opponent can fold, and if he doesn't fold and you get to the flop, how can you steal potentially with that queen 9 suited against that specific villain? And then instead of overcalling, can I squeeze 3-bet here? Can they both fold if I come over the top? Tip number 11, table select to find the fish. That is absolutely a key aspect to getting profitable. More fish equals more fun, equals profits, and also easier play. Let's take a look at this hand right here, this pocket queen's hand. So if we look around the table, I've got queen's lovely hand, right? Directly to my left, 57-43. He's 3-bet 25%, 1 out of 4. Raising first and 67%, calling 25%. I know it's a small sample, but he really does look like a fish. He plays a ton of hands, plays them aggressively, does a lot of calling as well. A good player to have at your table. Another one, 57/0. It's only 7 hands, but you go with what you know. He's looking potentially like a fish. 43-14. Hey, another fish. At this table, I have 3 fish to potentially target. And speaking of targeting the fish, get value while the getting is good. One of my favorite sayings, especially at the micro and the low stakes. Look at all these fish on this table. They hate folding with any pair and any draw. Get value while the getting's good. No slow playing versus fish when you know they can call with worse hands. Let's take a look at this hand right here. We opened a 3, a call, a fold, and another call. Multi-way in middle position here. Jack 9-7. Ooh, quite the wet board. Check. We've got the overpair, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw as well. We have to bet for value. We're going roughly 2/3, 6 into 9.5. Oh, fishy caller. Second fishy caller. Like, how bad would it have been if we had just checked right there? The button probably would have checked behind. That's 12 big blinds I would have potentially missed out on had I slow played. Whoa, we got trip queens. We're loving this. A set of queens, obviously, right? Check. You got to get value once again while the getting's good. Do not be tempted to slow play even with a monster hand. Look how wet that board is. I don't want to check and let them catch a free heart, 8, 10, king on the river. No. We're not letting that happen. We come in 18 to 27.5. We get a call. Oh, and another call. I'm loving this. 36 extra big blinds of value right here. The pot is 81.5 big blinds. We have 71.7 big blinds. And the river comes a jack, making the final board Jack, 9, 7, Queen, Jack. We have queens full of jacks right now. There's no way. I'm just letting this player look. In the past, 0 out of 1 betting on the river. I'm not going to check and, try to rely on him betting his last 53 big blinds into the 81 big blind pot. No way. I got to get value. I'm shoving in 71.7 big blinds. Drat. The button player decided to fold, but the player in the big blind with 115 big blinds in his stack still decides to call. Awesome. And he turns over. I have the whole cards exposed. Let me get it for you. Look at that. Queens full of jacks. He checks. We come out firing 71. The 7-9-2 pair gets kind of counterfeited by a pair of jacks on the board. He decides to get out. He wised up right here. But that 5-7 suited, he says, maybe my opponent has ace-king, has ace-10, a busted flush draw. Maybe my 4th pair could win. And he called and just doubled me up. This is why 2 things. First, you table select to find the fish, and then you must also get value while the getting's good when you're involved in those hands with the fish. Tip number 13, if they are weak, you must steal from them. So if they would have bet for value or protection or with a solid draw, but they checked instead, you must make the steal. I've got a hand right here where I had pocket 5s. Let's take a look. under the gun, open raises. I defend out of the big blind. It's just one extra big blind with my pocket fives trying to set mine. But remember, before I make this call right here, you have to plan to steal. I'm probably not going to hit a set. I only hit a set 11% of the time. That means 89% of the time, I'm probably going to be check folding, depending on what the board is and what my opponent does, right? Pocket fives to the flop on a 9, 10, 8 with 2 spades. That is as wet as a board can get. We check. Oh, he checks back. I guarantee, look at this player. He's a 35-25, loose aggressive player. He does not want to check back. And if we have any piece of this 9, 10, 8 with 2 spades, he doesn't want a spade to come off. He doesn't want a 6, a 7, a jack, a queen, but doesn't want any of those cards to hit. Probably doesn't even want to see a 10 right there because he doesn't have a 10. I guarantee he would have bet with top pair in this spot. His check back, absolute weakness. Another 9 hits on the turn. We come out firing 3 into 4.5, trying to bluff him off his hand. Also, deny any equity if he has an ace, king, queen, high hand. We don't want him to hit for free on the river, right? Boom, he folds. We took that bad boy down. Now, tip number 14, finally learn that software. Whatever that is that you want to learn that's going to help you study more or maybe play better in-game if it's Poker Tracker 4 with the HUD, right? So maybe Flopzilla Pro, Poker Tracker 4, GTO Plus, whatever it is, take the next month to use that program every single day. Find some training videos online. If you want to learn Flopzilla Pro or Poker Tracker 4, I actually sell courses to learn those. Links in the description down below. And so, of course, like with Flopzilla Pro, for example, we can actually put in our opponent's range in this pocket fives hand right here, enter the board, and see what parts of his range are actually folding. And by using Flopzilla Pro, I can see he's folding 91.5% of the time. If I hadn't had made this bluff and I wanted to analyze this hand later, boom, I'm learning that, yeah, bluffing this turn is mandatory because he's folding 91.5% of his range. You can find spot after spot like this by utilizing Flopzilla Pro and going through your hand. So whatever that software is, take the next month, the next 30 days to practice using it every single day. Before we get to the next tip, I want to thank some awesome poker peeps who are taking their poker skills to the next level in 2025 by getting the Flopzilla Pro course. They went to smartpokerstudy.com/Flopzilla Pro course. They get all the follow-along videos, the hours of training in utilizing this valuable software. So I have to thank Stephen Dadio, Adam Fossenbauer, Brian Yake, Liam Weston, Kyriakos Christofi, David Sinsads, Graham De Silva, Henry Mai, Hans-Dieter Jaeger, Isabel Couture, Darko Tadic, Mark Wyckoff, Darren Clare, Pablo Saunders, John Johnson, Renee Emberger, Loic Manion, John Werdenberg, John Crumpley, Andy Fraser, David Saunders, Todd Eastwood, Maita Mota, Tony Martinez, Alex Fung, Kelly Oyama, Susan Braniff, Guy Brooks, Andrew Beaver, Peter Russo, Stefan Polvi, Garrett Whiteleather, Sander Illis, Franco Scalise, John Strano, Jurgen Fuchsbauer, and of course, Paul Boyle. Thank you all so much for picking up the Flopzilla Pro course by going to smartpokerstudy.com/Flopzilla Pro course. So if you've been wanting to learn this software, and especially if you've been wanting to learn hand reading, you've got to get this course. It will teach you everything you need to know about Flopzilla Pro. Now, back to the tips. Now, tip number 15 is study uncomfortability. So you often find spots that you just lack, understanding and you're uncomfortable getting into. Like ISO raising a limper from out of position and then they call. Oh, I don't know what to do. They have position on me. They got a super wide range for limp calling. Or maybe facing C-bets or facing a check raise. You just don't know how to handle them. Well, what you want to do is put that software to use, whatever you're trying to learn, Flopzilla Pro, Poker Tracker 4, GTO Plus, Poker Snowy, whatever it might be, and find hands in your database and study those uncomfortable spots utilizing that software. So like I just said, maybe you're uncomfortable and you don't really know when to bet when your opponents show weakness in checking back. You can find a ton of hands like this in your database where you checked and they checked back on the flop. On the turn, you had the chance to lead out, but you didn't. Whip out all those hands. Open up Flopzilla Pro. Range your opponents. Put your hand in. Put the board in and see if you're missing probing opportunities on turns in this specific example. Now, tip number 16, learn to find the fold already. This is a key thing. I recently covered it in a video, link in the description down below. Oftentimes, you just know that you're beat. That board has 4 to the straight, 3 to the flush, and you got pocket aces. And you just don't want your hand to be beat. But you just value bet on this river, and he check raised you 3 times your bet. It's pretty obvious on this board that you're beat. You've probably been betting flop, turn, and river after raising pre-flop as well. He knows that he has you beat with his straight, with his flush. That's the only reason he is raising right there. If he had top pair on 4 to the straight, 3 to the flush board, he's just calling your bet or potentially folding depending on the strength and what he thinks of you as the better, right? So when you know you're beat, allow yourself to fold. Don't call and say, I gotta look this guy up. No, don't do that. That's going to keep you a losing player for a very long time. The final tip, number 17, get healthy. Now, one of my big things right now, I'm doing this challenge called the 75 Hard Challenge. You might have heard of it. This is where you're actually following a diet for 75 days, whatever that diet is, but there's no cheat meals. You're also doing 2 45-minute workouts every single day. The way I do it, 1 in the morning and then 1 mid-afternoon or so. And that mid-afternoon one, you got to go outside for that second workout. 2 times 45 a day, plus drink 4 liters of water. I'm almost, got a quarter of my gallon left for today. You have to read 10 pages of a book, but not just any book. It has to be a non-fiction book because those fiction books are quite easy to read. Whip out 10 pages easily. And then take a progress picture, like with your cell phone, every single day. And because of this, I am actually, take a look at that bicep, baby. Nice peak on it right there. I'm like Sam Sulek up in the hizzy. So that is what I am doing to get healthy. And the big reason behind that is healthy body leads to a healthy mind, leads in poker to better reads and better decisions, and of course, more wins. So get healthy. Well, there you go. 17 tips for you. Now I want you to take action. 2 action steps for you today. Number 1 is to please like the video if you like the video and comment below with your tip to become profitable in 2025 and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And of course, number 2, remember number 3, I talked about study, learn, and practice. Well, do it right meow. Choose 1 from these 17 tips I gave you and get to work on it right now. I highly recommend tip number 16 was learn to find the fold already. There's a link. The video is popping up on the screen right now or a link in the description down below. Click on it, watch the video, take notes, play some sessions, train yourself to find the fold and save money. That's 1 step to making money in 2025. I'll see you in the next one.